Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Speaking Sessions podcast. I'm Philip Sessions, your public speaking coach, and I've got Alec Minkoff here. He is a videographer turned social media student. He devotes most of his time to learning and perfecting how to crush it in front of the camera and how to use algorithms to push that even further. I'm really excited to talk today because you guys know I love talking about speaking. I tell you all the time to do videos on camera, and I've got the guy to help us with that. But not only on camera, but behind the camera as well, because he's going to tell us about those wonderful algorithms we all hate, but we know we need to love them. Alec, man, welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hey man, I appreciate you having me here. Yeah, there's a bunch of back end stuff that can help you get in front of more people, which is the idea, right? No point in
Yeah.
being nervous if only two people see the video. So, uh,
That's very true.
yeah, man, I started video when I was in middle school. I like to say that I don't know what other kids were doing in middle school, high school, but I didn't have a social life. I just edited a lot of video, and it was honestly it turned into a great skill to have. It kind of
Mm,
stumbled into it, and then in like the last 2.5 years, I really started studying social media because there was obviously the intertwine of video and turning into a business and really just expanding. I think everything has turned into social media now. Attention is one of the most valuable assets you can have at this point. But yeah, it's a brief backstory. I've had a lot of people just invest in me and give me the time of day and allow me to expand my knowledge, and just that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, man, it's awesome seeing you do I'll call it video editing. I know it's more than that, video editing and algorithm hacking there, but it's been awesome to see you grow and help other people grow their followings through that. And it's funny, we were just talking offline about if we could go back in time, like telling our past selves, something like that. You kind of did that because you joked around like, yeah, if I could go back and tell myself when I was 10 about, invest in Apple stock, invest in Tesla, but you literally kind of did that because you were doing all this video editing before it was this big mainstream thing that it is now. So kind of ironic that we were talking about that, and that's kind of what you did with your life. Now, maybe you could have been a lot further ahead right now if you had invested in Apple and told yourself that. But hey, we're where we're at right now. But tell us a little bit more about this service real quick. I feel like we need to say this to really give you that credibility and authority so we can move forward to really going and diving in and talking about that.
Yeah, yeah. So a little bit more of what I do. So we focus on I like to call it autonomy. So most people when it comes to social media, they're one of two types, right? They want to do all the work themselves, which is amazing. I love that. That's how I am, right? Or that's how I was built. And then the other type is that they want to either like learn it or have someone do it completely for them. So there's so many small nuances when it comes to videos. I like to use the analogy of picking a lock. Most people think that you just make good content and everything just blows up, but it's really a mixture of a lot of different things that make it work well. And so what we try to do is teach people to an extent, but really do it for them and show them how to, pick each line of the lock all the way to the end, which results in whatever the result you're going for is conversion, awareness, just high quality content that represents your business. And so we kind of go line by line and start with like, what is your brand? What are you trying to convey to people? Because most people are just taking clips and they're putting it out there, which is not a bad thing to do, especially for starters. I think it's a great thing to do. But at a higher level, it's like, okay, well, if you're wanting to convey a message, just like in a speaking, in a speech, you want to make sure you know exactly what your central points are. And so we start there and kind of work backwards on, and then obviously some of the last things are quality content because we want to make sure it looks great online. But when people watch it, what do they feel? How do they perceive? Are they going to watch more videos, or are they going to go, wow, this was kind of a waste of my time? Like I'm going to scroll past it. So what we do is we kind of like do the work of that, but behind the scenes and play with the psychology a little bit, and also a little bit of the algorithm game, understanding what tricks you can do that do play the algorithm, which is always in the benefit of the viewer because the algorithms are meant to make the viewing experience more positive. And so it's like, hey, well, this video that's a minute and 30 seconds long, maybe we can, shorten that a little bit by cutting out some pieces of it that aren't adding value, or at least in our opinions. Of course, there's no perfect method to it, but there's a lot of like tried and true, things that work really well. So we just pretty much solve all of that for people and make sure that their job is the input, which is getting on video and practicing the things like you teach and making sure that they convey their message well. And then our job is the output, taking that and then taking it off their plate and making sure it gets distributed everywhere. We understand deeply the differences between YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, all of the above. And so we really just take that knowledge out of the client's hands so they don't have to think about it. But some love to think about it, which is cool to deal with also.
Right. It's like kind of talking nerd talk with those people that
Yeah,
want to do it themselves. Hopefully.
absolutely.
Some of them, it's just more like I think it's pride or
Yeah.
maybe lack of funds. It could be multiple things there. I do want to ask the question because I always tell people, I tell my clients about how you need to really start building your social media brand, building your personal brand. And obviously, you're not going to be posting 40-minute speeches on
Mm-hmm.
maybe on YouTube, but
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, you can't do that. There's no way. And a lot of these
Yeah.
other platforms, it's a lot of people don't want to watch that anyways on those platforms. And you
Mm-hmm.
focus on reels pretty much exclusively.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a big difference between speaking for 30 seconds versus 30 minutes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How how do you convey that message? And what does that look like from a 30-second perspective? Because it's very hard to cram a lot of content in there. And I'm sure you're not cramming 10
Mm-hmm.
ideas into one video. That'd be crazy. But how do you
Yeah.
go about helping people plan that out? Planning
Yeah.
on how many ideas do you do? Because I guess kind of get a little more background. Obviously the speech, you have an intro, you have a body with 3 to 5 points, something like that, and a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like for, say, a 30-second video or a reel that you usually
Yeah,
work with?
that's a great question. The general formula, just to put it technically, is a hook. It's gotten a little bit more complicated now because I used to say a hook, engage them, and a call to action, or a hook,
Mm,
a promise, and deliver. But now it's kind of gotten a little bit more technical where you almost have to do a hook, a secondary hook, deliver on the content, and then provide a reason why they should engage with you or follow you or something like that.
mm,
What I like to say, if you're designing content for social media, it's a little different if you're repurposing content. Like, let's say someone has a speech and they're trying to, cut that up. It's a little different in that case. But if they're designing it for social media, it's good to talk a lot about a little rather than a little about a lot. And what I mean is, you take a smaller concept, maybe like in your case, there's plenty of tips that you would have that you could easily like nail down in like a an elevator pitch sort of a thing, and give a really good make it to where someone can really understand that small concept. Maybe it's like voice inflection, maybe it's how to interact with the audience or something of a like, and really gear the entire video around a small topic so that you can go in depth on it rather than trying to encompass a lot of information in a video, because most people go to social media to be entertained, simply put. And edutainment, which is like education entertainment, is this
mhm.
weird hybrid where you're kind of grabbing their attention, but also they walk away with a tidbit. So if you go with too much information, their brain shuts off and they're not going to rewatch it, and they're not going to be that interested, unless you're someone like Alex Ramosi, who just has everybody's attention. He can go
Yeah.
off for like 5 minutes, people would watch it. But most people, it's better to have 30 seconds of really thorough explanation of one topic than it is to try to do three topics in 60 seconds and accidentally go to a minute and 30. You're going to have a lot less engagement on that video than a thoroughly done 30-second video.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And I was afraid you were going to say something out like it's gotten a little bit more complicated. The hook, what you're going to tell them, and call to action. I thought you were going to throw like booty shake in there or something. I was getting a little
Yeah.
worried, man.
That might work
So
for
I'm
you,
glad.
honestly.
Yeah, I'm glad that that's not a requirement. I think it depends on who you ask, right?
It's only a recommendation, not a
It's
requirement.
a recommendation for anybody. It doesn't matter what muscle group you worked out. You shake the booty, and you're going to blow up
Yep,
on social media, guy or girl,
absolutely.
whatever you are. But yeah, it is crazy. Our attention spans have shrunk so much. So do you think that's why you have that second hook in there, is because of our attention spans?
Well, it's a mix, right? And what I like to say is, our attention spans, and it's just the semantics of the verbiage. But like I say, our attention spans have stayed the same, but our attention grabbing ability to grab our attention has shrunk dramatically, right?
Mm,
Because I hate when people say we have the attention span of a goldfish. Because I'm like, can you watch a movie? Because I can watch a movie still. I don't know about you, like
yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
But the ability to grab someone's attention has shrunk dramatically. The reason
Mm,
why a secondary hook is important, and that's like giving a another hint at what you're going to talk about, is because a regular hook has kind of been beat to death. And so, you have so many people doing short form content that you have, like someone saying like, here's 3 tips to accomplish blank, right? Like that's cool and all, but like we hear it so much that it's not attention grabbing anymore. And then
mm,
you might throw in something else that's like, in order to accomplish blank, or in order to prevent blank, or in order to, you add in a secondary reason why that's important. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. And there's honestly, it's a newer concept that most people probably aren't even aware of that they're seeing it. But it's really a way to like sink their teeth in, because one of the key factors for video, especially short form, but any video, is watch time and the ability to pull them through to the end. Short form is a
Mm,
little easier because 60-second investment is way less than 30 minutes, but making sure that they watch the video with the intent to watch it all the way through. And the secondary hook almost promises a result at the end of the video that the viewer can expect that they'll receive. And that's, it pulls them through. And then if you have one person watch it all the way through, I guarantee your view count's within 10 to 15 minutes is going to go much higher than it would have if you just did a regular hook and then tried to deliver on it immediately. We're just
mm.
inundated with content like that. And you just have to get creative.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So could you give us an example on this just so we can all make sure we understand this? As I believe I'm following you, but I want to make sure that I'm following you. And I know I'm putting you on the
Yeah,
spot here
absolutely.
to give that
It's very
example.
it's very complex. I'll use public speaking as an example and try to think of one. Um,
Perfect.
so
Let's
I
go
would
with
say
you
something
said it
like,
voice inflection. Let's do that. Yeah,
so here's
voice
what I would
inflection.
say. The one that popped in my head. The initial hook would be, here's, I'll do a basic one, right? Here's 3 tips to be able to, keep your audience engaged or whatever, right? Or here's 3 tips to be able to speak better on stage. That's super basic, right? Not something I'm necessarily recommending. A secondary hook would be something like, here's 3 tips to keep your audience engaged, so they don't fall asleep while you're speaking, or so they follow you
Mm,
on social media afterward, or so that they buy your book at the end of this. It depends on who your ideal client is, right? You really
mm,
want to use it to address a pain point rather than, here's something that's going to benefit you blank, right? In my case, I might do, here's a social media hook you can use that. That's not a good one. I was gonna say that no one else is using. I obviously, most of my stuff I don't come up with off the fly.
yeah,
I
yeah, I know it's tough.
hopefully that's a good enough example to see why it's more important. And another way of doing it that it's more common is, and this is the very generic way of doing it, but it's a good example for you to understand how it works. Is it, stay till the end to see blank or something like that. Like there's a
Mm,
lot of that happening, especially on YouTube. But that's an example of a way to set the precedent that you're gonna watch the video all the way through. Or the third
mm,
one's going to shock you. Those are the very basic ones. When I write them, I really get into the head of who's watching it first, because the first step I do with any client, any person I'm talking with, you want to build out a strategy of why they're watching your content, right? And you don't have to get too granular, but understanding, just like an audience member, why are they there, right? And then understanding what their pain points are, and then just promising the ability to fix that pain point. And then the value is the initial hook, and then the promise to fix something is usually secondary hook, or delivering something at the end.
mm.
So hopefully that's a little bit of a better context. It's case by case, like to an extent of like different products have completely different types of hooks. But yeah, it's a different tactic.
Yeah, for sure. But I like how you said that. So instead of like, here's how you, well, now I'm forgetting exactly how I said. I'm getting the second hook. Here's how you keep your audience's attention. Hook one, so they don't fall asleep. Hook two, right? So that's a great thing. So you basically, it's really just kind of explaining the hook, essentially.
Yeah,
With the second part,
like
just kind of
actually
give,
giving a
yeah,
yeah
a
proper.
little bit more context to it, or a little more substance, some meat to that
Mhm.
hook, if you will. Because yeah, you're right. Everybody said, here's 3 tips to get over the fear of public speaking, or here's 3 tips for
Exactly.
XYZ. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, that's cool. It's nice to have those 3 tips, but if you can give them a little bit
Yeah.
more details to that, that's a great way. So I like that,
Yeah.
the double hook, if you will. And then you
Another
got to throw up.
example just that popped
Go
in
ahead.
my head. Most of the time I do a lot of research as I'm doing it, so it's not off the cuff. But yeah, if I was to say, here's 3 tips for public speaking that's going to engage your audience, and then I would follow that with, if you do this right, they'll half of them will follow you on social media, or they'll all follow you on social media.
Mm.
That's another example that's like, oh, now you've got, like, not only am I going to get better at speaking, now I'm going to get more engagement on social media from this tip. Like, it's just another like cherry on top is how I would look at it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, add that little cherry on top to your video. So don't just try and give a good hook, but put that cherry on top of it too.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I know I put you on the spot there, so I
Oh,
apologize about
all the
that.
time
But
I do it.
Yeah, so I won't bash you for that. I can't promise that about my audience. I'm just kidding. They're a great
No, all good.
audience, so
I feel
they'll
like a rapper
big
having a freestyle. It's like you just got to work with what you got.
right, exactly. But hey, that's sometimes what it is. But obviously, you do a lot better job than that. Not that you did terrible, but definitely when you can actually sit there and prepare and think about
Sure.
who you're talking to as well, which is what I talk about with public speaking is who's the person you're trying to talk to. If you're
Yeah.
just talking generically, you can't create a hook around them. Like, hey,
Hmm.
you want to get over the fear of public speaking? Do this. All right. Well, why am I getting over that fear of public speaking?
Hmm.
You want to get over the fear of public speaking so you can get on stage with confidence, something like that. Do
Hmm.
this. So yeah, I like that a lot. So tell us a little bit more about the algorithms. You mentioned kind of there at the end about how if they watch all the way through, it seems that other people will start doing that. And in my mind, I'm automatically like, well, duh. I mean, if one person liked it, other people are going to like it and want to watch the whole thing. What does the algorithm do to kind of help push this? Because obviously they're looking at that watch time and that engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the way I look at it, and I say following the social media algorithms is like holding water, like it changes like crazy. But each one has its own different reasons, right? So the way I like to preface it is depending on the platform you're talking about, they have different incentives on why they want to keep or why they want to show someone good content, why they want to keep them on the platform. YouTube, as an example, competes against its own long form content or maybe supports its own long form content. TikTok has no other real form of content besides like stories and
Mhm.
things like that. Instagram has so many other forms of content. So each one has different algorithms because there's different intents on keeping them on the platform. Because like Instagram, for example, if it's a bad piece of content, they might go and you look at photos or something that's way less addicting. So that preface aside, Instagram is an easy one because the factors that I believe they look at the most, and like I said, it changes. Watch time is the biggest because that's an indicator of just usually an indicator of value.
Mhm.
There's ways to manipulate it, and I've done it myself, and I think that there's a lot of people that did it more in the past than they do now. People just focus on throwing captions on things now and putting them out there more than they do like manipulating it. But watch time is important because the more someone watches and then rewatches a video, obviously the more value is in it. The way people manipulate it, more commonly is by doing really short videos
Mhm.
or providing some false artificial reason to watch all the way through. Maybe they promise something at the end, and it's
Yeah.
not a bad thing to do it, but it's not promoting genuine value of content. And even if it
Mhm.
does go to more people, it's not really going to have the effect you want. Unless it does promise a good value, right? Some people do like your top hooks. Like one of my videos is like the top 3 titles you can do on YouTube, and they're tested. Like I have them on my own stuff. And so
Mhm.
that was a really short video. So if someone watches 5 seconds of a 10-second video, it's the same percentage as watching 30 seconds of a 60-second video. So it's
Yeah.
still 50% watch time. And so that's why that works really well. And on top of that, if they watch it for 10 seconds, well, they rewatched for 3 seconds. So it's just that's one way to game the watch time, but it's not the most effective. Well, I guess it's pretty effective, but it's not my favorite tactic to use, but you can use it. Other factors that are really great is sharing. Obviously, like if you're sharing a video, it has a lot of value. I think probably the easiest way to get people to do that is just to tell them, or have a reason for them to see it.
Mhm.
It's not one that I push a lot on my own stuff. I usually push saves, if anything, because you can just tell people. Call to actions are really helpful for playing the algorithm because people miss out that most people just don't know what to do with content. Like they watch it and
Yeah.
they're in zombie mode and they don't, they just go to the next thing. But if you tell them like or save or comment or whatever, they're more likely to do it. So
Mm.
that's the best way to play the algorithm. And then
Man, that
YouTube idols. Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, man, that's such a good point because I definitely am bad about the call to action. I'll do it here and there, but I definitely need to get better at that. And I've never thought about that. Hey, save this video if you like it, or save it for later so you can watch it.
Yeah.
It's an easy way, and it doesn't feel like you're asking versus like, hey, go buy my product or go
Yeah.
follow me. Let's changes it up a little bit too, because I've heard some people say that, but I don't hear a lot of people say, hey, save this if you found this valuable kind of thing.
Yeah, it depends on the goal of the video, right? I will
Yeah.
usually use that if I'm trying to get a video to get a lot of reach. And
Hmm.
the videos that I want to get a lot of reach are usually some kind of related to my business video.
Hmm.
Meaning like maybe it's explaining what I do for business owners, but in a way that's like valuable. So like,
Hmm.
how to like one of my one of my videos that popped off was the art of delegation. It was like how to double your income, da 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 da, right? And
Hmm.
how to double your income working less time. Well, what we do is we outsource social media for business owners. And
Mhm.
that kind of a video, I'd be like, look, if you're a business owner looking to scale your income, save this video and come back to it, rewatch it, whatever, right? So it gets to more people. And
Mhm.
those people are now aware of my service. Although they thought they were watching a tip on how to double their income. Really, I mean, they did, but they also saw
Yeah.
a tip on my service. So, and then I would say, for someone like follow me, that's another call to action. And sometimes they don't include a call to action. You don't
Mhm.
want to bombard them with too much, and you don't want to overthink it either. But the more you do it, just like speaking on stage, you're gonna think in the moment to throw out those small things,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're gonna feel when the time's right. At first, you just gotta practice it, do it, but in time, it just comes naturally.
Gotcha. And then you were going to mention something about YouTube. I cut you off there
Oh
though.
yeah, that's too late. I'm not going back. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. Yeah. So YouTube is
Darn.
interesting because the title has a big impact.
Yes.
On YouTube, as far as I can tell, I haven't really found a good way to do it. You can't really see the description of the short video. But I think it does play a factor because YouTube is very SEO based, meaning because it's owned by Google and it's a search engine itself. It's a number two search engine. So titles though play a huge factor because the for some reason that because the titles are usually on the homepage, which I think is where a lot of the boost comes from when
Mhm.
a video gets a lot of views. So if your title entices people to watch it and then watch it all the way through, your YouTube short is going to do a lot better. If your title is just something generic that has to do with something that only you or maybe like your small audience knows, like your niche audience knows, then you're probably not going to get a ton of engagement on it. But if you can reword it in a way that's like, like one that's like super generic but common that I use is like a game changing tip for blank, or this tip changes the game, like that kind of a thing. It's
Mhm.
just generic enough that people will watch it and they'll usually try to watch it all the way through. So titles have a huge impact on YouTube. Having a good description with keywords in it is good. And yeah, it's just unique in that titles don't really have anything to do with anything else.
Yeah, yeah. I found that when I use the title, it actually helps my video get more. The title obviously helps, but
Mm-hmm.
whenever I make a video around the title, and maybe just because I'm more focused on what the video is about versus I make a video and I'm like, well, what would
Then
the
title.
title of this be?
Yeah,
It seems to do better when I have the title in mind first. So that could be a way
absolutely.
that and yeah, I guess you gave it some validation there, but yeah, come up with the title first for your
Mm-hmm.
video and then create a video around that versus have an idea and then reverse backwards and go get the title kind of
It's
thing.
funny. I've heard
Yeah.
a lot of Mr. Beast included. A lot of really famous YouTubers will create the thumbnail and the title first. Well, the thumbnail
Mm,
sometimes has to be made in the video, but they
yeah.
have those in mind.
Mm,
Because if you think about it, and I didn't realize this until I heard Mr. Beast break it down like this for YouTube, is your click-through rate is obviously one of the biggest metrics on YouTube. I mean,
yeah.
and so like let's say it's a 5% click-through rate, and let's say it has 100 views or maybe a 10% click through rate because I'm terrible at math. That means that if it has 100 views, then 1,000 people saw it, right? But they didn't
Mm,
click it, or 900 people didn't click it. And so if you increase that, that click through rate, you're going to get like it was a crazy metric for me to think that 900 people went past my video and didn't
mm-hmm.
click it. And so that's where the thumbnail comes in and the title comes in is like, and that's really smart to start with it and really think about it because, and one of the guys I study for YouTube content, his name is Robert Benjamin. Y'all can look him up. He's good at what he does, but there's a lot of like in my maturity, I've found a lot of flaws in some of the things he says. But his titles are all the exact same. Like he uses the
Hmm.
exact titles over and over and over and changes, the dates and some things, but he found what worked for his view count, and it's just a good example of
Hmm.
finding what works and reusing it on YouTube, on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. Reusing things is different.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me real quick, because I've seen that click through rate. I didn't know what that meant. I was thinking it was more like I'm watching your video, I'm going to click through to some of your other videos,
Right.
but it's
No,
clicking to the video. Is
you're
that
right.
what you're
So
saying?
click through rate. I'm
Okay.
glad you asked about that.
Yeah.
Because normally with email campaigns, you think they open the email and they click through, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what you're referencing.
Yeah.
Well, click through on YouTube means they saw the thumbnail and clicked the video.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's
Well, that's
initial.
good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So that's old timers like me that just think about email, dinosaur days. Now we know about
YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah.
YouTube's metrics are I wish Instagram had the same level of metrics, and there may be more that I know that have come up now that I don't necessarily know about. But I know I was talking to someone like just recently, like today, about we were talking about the YouTube watch time demographics and stuff you can
Hmm.
see, and on ads for Facebook and Instagram you can see them. But
Hmm.
I would love to see on specific videos like average watch times and things like that. Just if I could have a multitude of metrics for each video, it would help me really study it better. But so far the metrics you can get are just like profile views and stuff, which helps, but
Yeah.
not exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You can go back and see like overall, like not for uh,
Yeah.
per video. You can see kind of your overall profile, some of those
Yeah.
other metrics like demographics, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, but another question for you, I got two other questions
Awesome.
that I've thought about so far, at least.
Love it.
Captions, but on the video, so I don't know if that's really a caption or whatever. We see
Oh,
so
on
many
okay,
people.
subtitle.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so subtitles on the video. So we see people that's I've heard it's not actually Alex Hermosi that started this. It was somebody else, but
No.
Alex Hermosi is the one that's known for it, whatever. But anyways, the Alex Hermosi style of the subtitles on the video, is that a necessary thing? Or do you think,
Good
yeah,
question.
how does that play in? Because I know for me, it's been difficult to do that. Uh, but it's gotten a little bit easier over time.
Hmm.
But what do you
Yeah,
think
more
about that
tools
and
have
making it
come
look
out.
fancy?
So the way I look at it is, it's almost a necessary evil at this point because everybody's doing it. You kind of have to play a game to catch someone's attention. Now,
Mhm.
the way I look at it, one, it's an agency that does Hermosi stuff and all the other guys that are similar to that. So that's why it
Yeah.
looks pretty similar. He just blew up on social media, so everybody thinks it's
Yeah.
his style, but it wasn't him that created it. But that being said, I think that they're great. Here's the mistake most people make. People don't realize that the content that they make represents their business online, right? So whenever a
Mhm.
prospect is going to look at your socials or whatever they're doing to scrub you, basically, they're looking at the content you have and associating the quality of that with the quality of your business. Now, is it mutually exclusive? Do they go, oh, they made it themselves, I'm not going to do business with them? Probably not. However, what most people try to do is they mimic a professional style with the like, tools that like are available that make it very obvious, like to anybody, at least to me, but like not to everybody maybe. But it's very obvious that it's kind of DIY, which is not a bad thing. I always tell people if you don't have the ability, just do it yourself. But
Yeah.
don't try to mimic a studio style because it's going to come off knockoffy, if you will, in my opinion. That's at least the impression that I get. And I've had a lot of people agree with that. What I recommend people do, and don't overdo captions and stuff or subtitles and stuff. Like some of my best videos had zero colors. The content is what drives the video. If it's a
Mhm.
really good video, there's a lot of ways to use subtitle to use. I'm trying to like not confuse the two words because
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of ways to use subtitles very simply and have it be successful. I obviously know how they do them and I know how to do them myself, so I take full advantage of the styles they do and I create my own styles for all my clients. I create custom styles. I try to create something that's just as poppy and just as attention grabbing, but represents their brand well and not like Alex Hermosi's brand or whatever brand that the agency calls himself. But so I think it's very important to have captions in some, but I wouldn't try to mimic the professionally made ones. I would try to create your own style and something that feels high quality to you rather than trying to mimic high quality and being off, which is what most people do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I appreciate you sharing that. Definitely good information. I've seen so many people copy. I'm like, really? But you're right. It is kind of that necessary evil at this point. You kind of have to do it. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But I've noticed myself, even if I'm watching the video and actually able to listen, I'm also reading the words. So
Oh yeah.
I'm paying more attention to it because of that. So it is kind of this whole necessary evil. But I know we haven't talked about LinkedIn at all, but if you put videos on LinkedIn, most people don't watch with audio.
No.
So having those captions is huge for videos on LinkedIn.
Yeah. That's where I
And
started actually. All my videos
uh,
were LinkedIn first.
nice, nice. That's definitely a tough crowd over there if you're not really directly in that business space or have a
Yeah.
way. I mean, I guess everybody can make it. I've seen fitness people do that, although you don't think of fitness people as
Yeah.
business people per se, but yeah, everybody can make it over there if they want to. It's definitely an area I've been trying to get more into. I've been struggling to get myself over there because I like the videos, but that's not a video friendly platform. So I've been pushing myself into YouTube a little bit more.
Mm. We should game
Now,
we should game plan that out off camera. I'll tell you some
nice.
things on it.
Let's do that for sure. I've got one other question. I know we
Mhm.
talk about they talk about like original content stuff, and obviously, if we're making a video of ourselves, that's original content.
Mhm.
But one of the algorithm hacks that everybody always talks about is putting the trending sound, the trending audio or music on videos. What's your thoughts behind that? Because if you have original content and you put your own voice speaking that audio, then it's original audio as well. Does putting music add? Does it take away? Tell us about that.
Yeah, great question. I think it increases your chance if you use it right. It increases your chance of getting a lot more views for sure.
Mm.
The downside is that if they take that song off the platform, which happens more often than we realize, that it mutes the whole
Mm.
video. So
Oh wow.
there's a lot of videos out there that have zero sound on them, and so it's just this useless piece of content at that point. So if you hit it right and it goes off a little bit, that's awesome. But for the most part, I think that you don't have to. I usually just use non-copyright music that I have licensing ability for, and I just find one that fits the vibe of the video, and I just use that. And I might even use the same song over and over to kind of build that recognition with it. If it's a
Mm.
good enough song, the right song will make a video go much more viral. It depends on what you're talking about and how you use it, but I think trending audio is great if you know how to find them and you can use them. Then I think it's great to use, but you do always run the risk of one. I don't think you're allowed to use them as ads for anybody who does that because it's
Mm.
obviously not commercially or commercially licensed. But you also run the risk of losing the audio on it. So it's a
Mm.
catch 22.
That's a good point. Anything about that? I know my one video, it was on YouTube, it popped off. I got think that's at 11,000 views now.
Nice.
And it was funny. I just did a point of view, and it was I actually kind of I copied the audio, and I put like PETA, whatever, like, it was like Peter Griffin, and it was his wife yelling at him. It was like, PETA, PETA, PETA. And like,
Yeah.
but I put like point of view when your wife gets mad and makes you go outside with the kids, and I'm like pushing my daughter around in her wheelchair, not wheelchair, in her
Yeah.
stroller, and then I'm fooling the dog with this toy, like he's holding on to the toy, so I'm just moving around, and
Yeah.
that just like popped off. But it's
That's
the
hilarious.
the audio and the video matched up there, and of course I
Yeah.
had the subtitle, as we've been calling it, the words on the screen on
Yeah.
the video there as well to go with that. So I kind of had all of this together.
Love that.
Now,
That's
is that an
awesome.
important thing to kind of pair that audio or the soundtrack, if you will, with what you're actually speaking about?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. There's just unlimited ways to do things.
Yeah.
The way I say it is, if you have a cool idea, do it. Like there's like no right or wrong. I mean, the way that I think there is a wrong is if you copy or like if you like, and I say copy, I mean do something identical. You can
Mm.
R&D stands for rip off and duplicate in my eyes. I go look for popular topics, right? I'm not just pooping out like every popular topic. I'm studying what's working,
Mm.
but I take that and I put my own spin on it. I don't just take what they did. So if you're doing something completely creative and you're like, hey, I think this matches, go for it. Like you never
Mm.
know. I had a social media mastermind on Saturday with some people, a guy who is doing pretty well and just didn't really expect to. And he said his best video was one he wasn't even going to post. And that's how it always is. So you really never know. I think, as long as it matches what you want to be represented online, I'd say just
Mhm.
post it.
Man, awesome. Awesome. Well, Alec, man, there's so much information. So awesome. Y'all definitely need to go back and listen to this. And here I am giving my call to action. So you'd be proud of
There
me
you
right
go.
here, Alec. But guys, if you want to learn more about this, you definitely need to get in touch with Alec. We're going to ask him that question here in a minute, but definitely get in touch with him about that. Before we get your contact information, I'm holding you hostage here. I'm holding all of y'all hostage here. We've got to ask Alec, what is that message? If you could only share one message for the rest of your life, what would that message be?
Try it, whatever it is. Every time if I say that to someone, that something different pops in their head. But try it. There's limited time in life, and there's always something that people want to try. And if you don't, you're just never gonna have the experience. I tell people starting a business taught me more in half a year than entire time in college. So just doing the thing, if it's social media, if it's speaking on stage, if it's just talking to more people, because I know that's a challenge for some introverts. Just
Mhm.
try it. You're always gonna fail at first, and that's good.
Mm.
And so just don't be afraid of it.
I love that, man. I resonate with that because definitely as I've stepped more into the entrepreneurship realm and building my business, as I try more and just dive into it more, I figure the things out that I didn't know.
Exactly.
There's things that I never would have asked myself oh, maybe I need to figure this out first. But because I tried it, I know, oh, I do need to know this. Okay, I do need to know this. And I
Yeah.
found the things I need to know along the way or need to go figure out. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely just try it. I love that. It's a great message to share.
Yeah.
So, Alec, if people want to get in touch with you, see what kind of content you're doing so they can do their own R&D, as you
Yeah.
said,
There you go.
or they want to actually work with you, where's the best place for them to reach out?
Yeah, two best places are Facebook and Instagram. I put different content on both. Facebook's just my name, Alec Minkoff. Instagram is Alec Min. You can see a lot of my short form content on Instagram, and you can see a lot of my written kind of like deeper look on things content on Facebook. So either one of those are good. But if you want to reach out to me, Facebook Messenger is probably the best way. I check my DMs on Instagram pretty often, but I have all my notifications off, as you can imagine, because
Yeah.
it's very distracting. So Facebook is probably the best way.
Yeah, man, it's tough when you go viral all the time, just getting
Yeah.
tens of
Not the
thousands
case,
of
but
likes and comments. Yeah, I'd hate those notifications too.
I also have a lot of clients stuff that's happening, so I don't
Yeah,
want to get notifications.
I just messing with you. Although
Yeah.
it's funny because that did happen with that video that had like 11,000
Oh
views
yeah.
and had all these likes and just like going. I was trying to
Yep.
show my wife something. She's like, "What in the world? Why are you getting all these
Your phone
notifications?"
battery is just
Yeah,
shrinking.
yeah. I'm like, yeah, I don't normally get that many, so I leave the notifications on.
Yeah.
But one of these days,
I've
I'll start
definitely
going viral
screenshotted
like
too.
you. Yeah, yeah. I should have.
That's funny.
Or I could just do that, like have a screenshot, and so it looks like I've got all these notifications. So every time, like I'm like showing off my phone, it looks like I've got
Yeah, that
a
should be your
hundred
background,
thousand.
your phone
Yeah,
background.
exactly. It's
That's what I'm
kind of
gonna do.
it's the flex instead of doing a Lambo. It's just like flexing your notifications.
Dude, I'm gonna make a fake DM from Alex Hermosi that says, "Dude, how'd you do that?" And it's gonna be like my phone background.
Nice.
That's
I
great.
love it, man. You got to make a video of that.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, of course. This has been awesome. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.